They called her poor on an airplane, not out loud, not screaming, just quietly enough that everyone nearby could hear it and pretend they didn't. And yeah, that happened. And what nobody on that plane knew at the time was that the little girl standing there frozen and embarrassed had a mother who would later own the airline. I know that sounds unreal, like something out of a movie, but stick with me. Because this isn't about money or revenge, it's about what it feels like when someone decides you don't belong and what happens when that moment finally meets the wrong family. Her name was Maya Collins. She was 10 years old, small for her age, the kind of kid who still hugged her stuffed bear before doing anything scary. This was her first time flying alone Bayport to Riverton spring break, going to stay with her grandma for a week. She wore her public school uniform, navy shirt, khaki skirt sneakers that used to be white but had clearly lived a full playground life. Her backpack had tape on one strap covered with stickers to make it look intentional. In her arms, Captain Brown, a stuffed bear missing one eye sewn back on by her mom late one night with mismatched thread. She sat at the gate swinging her legs, clutching her boarding pass like it might disappear if she let go. Seat 31C, coach checking it again and again, even though she knew it by heart. Her mom, Elena, had dropped her off earlier and knelt down right there in the terminal, holding Maya's face in both hands while people rushed past like the moment didn't matter. "Listen to me," she said, calm but serious. "Where you sit doesn't mean anything. Who you are is not measured by tickets or clothes or money. You belong wherever you are, okay?" Maya nodded, because she trusted her mom completely, and because at 10 years old you still believe adults mean what they say. Boarding started with first class, of course. Maya watched them walk by, rolling smooth suitcases moving like airports were living rooms. She noticed the difference, sure, but she didn't feel jealous. Her mom had raised her on the idea that things were just things, that character mattered more. You know what I mean? She stood when her zone was called, hugged. Captain Brown tied her and stepped onto the plane. That's when she met Brenda Hale. Brenda stood right at the curtain dividing first class and coach posture, perfect uniform, crisp smile, sharp in that practiced way that looks polite but doesn't feel kind. Maya tried to slip past her service cart, careful, really careful, but her backpack snagged the corner and a bottle of water rolled maybe an inch. That was it. That tiny sound. Brenda snapped her head up and scanned Maya from head to toe. "Coach passengers need to move faster," she said, voice low and tight. "You're blocking premium guests." It wasn't shouted. That's the thing. It was worse than that. Maya felt her face burn. "I'm sorry," she whispered, already moving, but Brenda had already turned away like the conversation was over and never worth having in the first place. Maya found her seat, heart pounding, and told herself it was nothing, just stress, just an accident. Then she dropped a crayon. It rolled a few rows forward. The seatbelt sign was off. People were walking around, so she stood up slowly and followed it, bent down, fingers just touching the waxy paper when Brenda's voice cut through the cabin again. "What are you doing?" Maya froze. "I dropped my crayon," she said, holding it up like proof. "This section isn't for you," Brenda replied. "Coach stays in coach." Maya blinked. She knew that wasn't how planes worked, but when you're 10 and an adult says something with total confidence, you doubt yourself. She nodded, cheeks hot, and hurried back to her seat. The excitement she'd felt earlier completely gone, like someone had turned the color down on the whole flight. Snack service came later, and the difference was impossible to ignore. In first class, Brenda's voice softened, smiles appeared. Cookies were handed out like gifts. In coach, her tone flattened. When she reached Maya, she poured apple juice halfway, set it down without eye contact, and said snacks were for purchase. Maya glanced across the aisle. The woman there had pretzels and cookies. "They got snacks," Maya said softly, not accusing, just confused. Brenda leaned in close enough that Maya could smell her perfume and said quietly, "Those are complimentary for certain passengers. Snacks are $3. Does your family even have $3? That sentence landed hard. Not loud, not dramatic, just precise, like it had been sharpened beforehand. Maya's throat tightened. She nodded and reached into her little purple wallet, pulled out a wrinkled $5 bill her grandma had sent months ago, and handed it over. Brenda gave her a small bag of pretzels, some change, and then added, almost casually, "Maybe next time your parents can afford better seats." Maya didn't eat the pretzels. She stared out the window instead, forehead pressed to the cool plastic, breathing the way her mom taught her when things felt overwhelming. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Don't cry here, not here. Later, she needed the bathroom. The line in coach was long. People shifting uncomfortably, and she could see the first-class bathroom sitting empty, door closed, green light glowing. She hesitated, then stepped forward, telling herself it was just a bathroom, that it shouldn't matter. "Stop!" Brenda again, like she'd been waiting for this moment. "That bathroom is for first class only." "I really need to go," Maya said, voice shaking now. "That's not my problem." That's when a man stood up from a first-class seat nearby. Tall, calm, dark suit, the kind of presence that fills a space without trying. His name was David Mercer, though Maya didn't know that yet. "She's a child," he said. "Let her use the bathroom." Brenda crossed her arms. Her parents chose coach. If they can't afford first class, she follows coach rules. The cabin went silent. You could feel it, that heavy pause when everyone knows something has crossed a line but isn't sure who's going to say it out loud. Maya felt something break inside her. Not loudly, just quietly, and she turned and ran, tears blurring everything all the way to the back of the plane, where she finally made it to the bathroom and cried so hard she had to cover her mouth so no one would hear. David recorded everything. When the plane landed, Maya stayed in her seat until almost everyone was gone. David met her in the jet bridge, knelt down to her level, and said gently, "What happened wasn't okay." He handed her a business card. "If your mom wants proof, I have it." At baggage claim, Maya ran straight into her grandmother's arms and fell apart completely, the kind of crying that only happens when you finally feel safe. That night, her mother learned everything. Elena Collins didn't yell. She didn't threaten lawsuits or post angry messages. She went quiet, which if you know people like her, you know that's when something serious is happening. Elena was a tech founder, quietly wealthy, the kind of person who never looked the part. She grew up with nothing. She knew that tone, that judgment. She had promised herself her daughter would never feel small like that. 3 weeks later, North Airlines had a new majority owner. No press conference, no announcement, just paperwork and signatures moving faster than anyone expected. Elena didn't buy the airline to make a headline. She bought it to change something. Her first move was a mandatory all-staff meeting. Brenda stood near those back, annoyed, arms crossed, assuming this was just another corporate show. She didn't recognize Elena at first, standing at the podium, calm, composed, not angry. "My daughter flew your airline," Elena said, "and a member of your crew decided she didn't deserve dignity." She told the whole story, every moment, every word, no exaggeration, no drama, just facts. Then she called Brenda forward. 14 complaints, same pattern, same excuses, buried. David played the video. The room went silent. "You're terminated," Elena said, "effective immediately." Brenda cried, begged, said she had bills. "My daughter needed kindness," Elena replied. "You gave her cruelty." Security escorted her out. Elena didn't stop there. She rewrote policies, training, accountability. Zero tolerance. No more class-based attitudes. No more quiet cruelty that hides behind rules that don't exist. 3 months later, Maya flew again. Same route, different feeling. A flight attendant knelt to her level and smiled. "Welcome aboard, we saved you a window seat." Maya smiled back. And that's the part people argue about. Some say Elena went too far, that buying an airline to fire one person is excessive. Others say it's exactly what accountability looks like when someone finally has the power to enforce it. Me, I think this story isn't really about money at all. It's about what happens when someone decides you don't belong and what it feels like when that decision is challenged. So here's my question for you. Was Elena right, or did she cross a line? And if you had the power to change one injustice you've seen